Hey everyone, we've been chronicling our spring vacation here in early May, and today we've made it to our most distant destination from home. This is Mesa Verde National Park. Mesa Verde National Park, you actually can access the visitor center here before you even go through the park gate, so it's open to the public. Pretty cool exhibits. We always like to stamp our passport and track where all we have been on these family adventures. One thing we're realizing though is that now, with new additions coming into our family again, we have kids who haven't been to all the places that the older kids have been. So it's a fun and exciting opportunity to start thinking about going back to some of the places we've been to before. One of the things we like to take the opportunity to do on these trips is go ahead and read and learn about all of the exhibits that are here. This is a fun opportunity to combine history and social studies together and really make our trip part of our school for our kids. This is a major part of learning, and it's pretty awesome because it's hands-on, interactive, and the kids get to take turns reading and expressing back to us what they've learned. And so there's just some great opportunities. It can be a little challenging to maintain focus, I'm not going to lie about that, but with proper direction and setting expectations beforehand, it is something that is pretty awesome to be able to practice learning in a different way. And ultimately, I think it's something that provides great learning for the children. They love to laugh at me doing silly things, and so that's always fun. Here we're getting a preview of some of the most significant cliff dwellings in the park. And then we headed out to drive through the park and pick up some spectacular views from this overlook that is the highest point in the park. Over 8,000 feet up, there's an active fire lookout here. And so we got to learn not only about past technologies and peoples, but about how the current fire overlook works and what a significant role it plays in this valley here in southwestern Colorado. Here we saw an actual active fire. Turns out we learned later on that it was a controlled burn, but it was pretty cool to be able to spot it from this far away. Again, some of these overlooks and different things might seem monotonous or repetitive, but frequently the signage at these various places does provide a great learning opportunity. We learn directions, we learn where we were yesterday and where we're going tomorrow, and we can see kind of an overview of the whole landscape. Mesa Verde National Park has many of these historic dwelling places that have been preserved, and they are easily accessible. Many of them are easily accessible either immediately from your car on the side of the road or from very short graveled path walkways to these various examples of their dwellings and their technology. And this is actually a reservoir where they would have kept and stored water or collected water for use in their farming and in their community. So all in all, really great signage, really good history of the people, and it really was an awesomely accessible place for all the kids. Here we're completing something we don't always do, but is an awesome learning activity, and that is finishing up their junior ranger books. So they all got these booklets to fill out based on their age, and then took the time to answer the questions and draw the drawings. And it was a great pen to paper activity applying the things that we'd seen at the visitor center and around the park. This was a museum of ancient artifacts. Pretty awesome to see a lot of the things that had been preserved and collected from the park. We're at it saving money again, so the nice thing about having the food with you is that alongside the road you can pull over wherever and lunch is served. After lunch, it was nap time for little Gwendolyn in the car, and me and the olders took off on a hike that was marked strenuous. So we headed straight off behind the museum down into one of these canyons. Pretty amazing how the environment changes as you get to the bottom of the canyon. It's much greener and there's a lot more tall trees. This hike went right along or across the bottom of the canyon, and then here you see us up along the side of the opposite wall. Pretty fun trail. There was a lot of bouldering and a lot of kind of squeezing through tight places like this one, but not too many severe drop-offs that we had to be worried about. Although the drop-offs weren't too severe, you are walking along the edge of the canyon in this entire hike. Pretty cool up and down through steep rock staircases and under a lot of these overhangs. It kind of gives you a sense of what it must have been like to be an ancient Puebloan person living in the sides of these canyons, because this would have been their type of trail and their type of terrain moving along the side of the canyon walls. The views here were pretty spectacular all throughout. So amazing how the mesa looks flat up on the top of it, and then you get down into where you're seeing one of these canyons and they really are massive. Here was a little cliff dwelling remains that we saw along the way, and we made it to our destination, which was these awesome petroglyphs. Shortly after the petroglyphs is just about to the end of the trail, and it was a little rock scramble, a little rock climbing up to the top of the mesa. These views again from the top of the mesa, absolutely breathtaking how huge this country is. We hoofed it back along the top of the mesa. It's a pretty easy gravel trail, and then got to sit in on a brief talk that afternoon. The next day here, we had the opportunity to do a tour of the Cliff Palace. This is the largest cliff dwelling in Mesa Verde National Park. You do have to sign up ahead for a tour of this, and we were able to do that and get some tickets for what turned out to be the first tour of the morning. And this I would highly recommend, because that first view that you just saw and these views coming up, there's no one on the dwelling. There's not another tour group in front of you. And so this was a pretty cool opportunity to get some awesome pictures and footage of the cliff dwelling without actually having another tour group out there in front of us. The ranger was very helpful and very knowledgeable when it came to kind of explaining the purpose of the cliff dwelling and how they think that the native people would have functioned in it. On the way out, it was a little bit of a scramble. So some narrow passageways, steep stairs, and then 3 of these ladders to get you from the level of the dwelling up onto the top of the mesa again. As always, we love to do all these things as a family. And so our next little walk was the Soda Canyon Overlook Trail, where we had a chance to get Gwendolyn in the backpack and do just a pretty flat 1.25 mile loop around on this nice gravel trail through this Utah juniper forest that is the majority of the top of the mesa here in Mesa Verde. Some beautiful views. The weather really turned out for us today. And here we're able to get a look across the canyon at another cliff dwelling. This cliff dwelling does have a tour that you can do down to it as well. And so pretty cool opportunities to get right in. I did hear that in the summertime they do limit your tours that you do to just 1 tour per visit. So do a little reading on the website and pick a tour that seems like it fits you and your family and sign up for it. This one, if you do the tour, I've heard that there is an over 30-foot ladder climb that is not sandwiched between rocks, but is pretty out and exposed there on the cliff face. So pick one that seems fitting for your fitness and your family, and they are a great way to enjoy the park. But here, we're getting a chance, though, to see these cliff dwellings in the beautiful country without a tour and without a reservation. And it definitely was a great way to start to wrap up our second day here in Mesa Verde National Park. Just a reminder, like many of these places, there are drop-offs. And at this point, our older kids especially, have gotten pretty good at watching where the drop-offs are and what the potential risks are. But it's always good. We are always reminding and making sure everybody is being aware of the trail, because it is pretty distracting when there's such cool things to look at. I just love the clouds and the canyons that we see here. Here's an example of what I do a lot too. If I go in front and then I kind of pick the drop-off place and I stand there as a railing in between where the kids are and the potential drop-off. All in all, such a great experience. I think 2 days was a significant amount of time to visit the park here. There was a whole another section of the park that's closed. It's going to be closed all of 2024 here. That section, I think, would have taken a whole nother day to view. So if you want to see the whole park and the whole park is open, 3 days would be a good amount of time.